Clean Water Network was established in 1992 to be a gateway and essential clearinghouse as well as an advocacy arm for the clean water community across the country. One of Clean Water Network's key roles is to serve as a portal for the latest news and information on federal clean water policy developments. The network was designed to help facilitate communications among member groups and coordinate joint policy and position statements as well as activities. This combination of federal policy work and field advocacy was envisioned as a key means to achieving a stronger national effort to bring polluted waterways back to health and to preserve our nation's rivers, lakes, streams, wetlands, estuaries, and coastal waters. For its first 16 years, CWN was a project of the Natural Resources Defense Council. In 2008, CWN became its own 501c3 independent organization. A 23-member board of directors governs CWN, which is composed of multiple member-driven work groups that tackle a wide range of clean water issues. The Clean Water Network's primary goal is to safeguard water quality and quantity for future generations. We accomplish this through a variety of approaches. One way we safeguard water is by working to defend, strengthen, and implement the Clean Water Act and other key federal and state legislation that is impacting bodies of water. The Clean Water Network is dedicated to strengthening Clean Water Act protections and ensuring a future of clean water. Another way to achieve our goal is to empower public interest organizations across the country so that individually and collectively stronger voices on clean water policy making are heard. In order to achieve its mission and accomplish its goals, CWN distributes the latest news and information on federal, regional, and state clean water policy developments to its network of supporters, fosters communication and collaboration among member groups, coordinates issue-based clean water campaigns to help bring polluted waterways back to health, and, as a result, preserves our rivers, lakes, streams, wetlands, estuaries, and coastal waters. What CWN and the entire clean water community needs first and foremost are resources. We need funding. Funding is needed particularly at the grassroots level for groups working on the ground in their local watersheds. Community grassroots clean water work is vital to our whole efforts. It is where the rubber meets the road. There also needs to be considerably more funds for public awareness. One of the biggest obstacles clean water advocates face across the country is the lack of public awareness of the world's serious water crisis. Most people still believe in a water fairy, which magically makes their water come out of the faucet. There needs to be more extensive public outreach and education efforts in communities across the country. Part of those outreach efforts have to include providing information on individual water usage, including the energy costs associated with getting clean water out of the tap. Few people have a good idea of what it truly costs to get a glass of clean water to their dining room tables. CWN is fortunate in that we are able to draw on the expertise from a wide range of organizations on the national, regional, state, and local levels. These unique partnerships amongst many different stakeholder groups from across the country allow us the opportunity to leverage support from both traditional and non-traditional partners and constituencies. We not only work with environmentalists and watershed groups, but also with union members, faith groups, hunters and anglers, as well as farmers. We work with grassroots groups in local communities across the country. This bottom-up organizing provides CWN with the opportunity to forge strong, cohesive regional and state partnerships across the country. These partnerships strengthen our coalition on the national level, which translates into making a bigger impact on the federal level. CWN also works hard building collaboration, coordination, and the capacity of member organizations. CWN's main collaboration techniques include creating priority projects and campaigns with our members, hosting events, providing strategic communication tools, building partnerships, tapping local, state, and national expertise, and linking technical and policy experts with citizen leaders to help members participate in policymaking. We organize local and regional caucuses that are very interactive and action-oriented. These meetings have become one of our most popular member services. Public interest groups convene on specific topics at these smaller meetings to brainstorm on certain issues and network with other organizations in the same region. These caucuses also help foster stronger links and partnerships throughout the entire clean water community. We measure success in a variety of ways. Some of the metrics used to measure effectiveness are very specific and straightforward, including whether legislation gets passed or not. We also constantly evaluate to see if water quality standards and guidance documents from executive agencies are strong and protect our waterways. And we monitor whether restoration efforts for our iconic waters across the country are robust and well-funded. But we also use other metrics to determine success, including widening our circle of coalition members to include additional partners, particularly non-traditional ones, and we keep abreast of local community watershed actions. One of Clean Water Network's most popular programs is its State Assistance Fund. This re-granting of funds to local watershed and grassroots groups is vital to creating a strong boots-on-the-ground effort. This grant program awards small grants of between $1,000 to $5,000 to state and local groups that are working on issues that meet the mission of the coalition. This program has been responsible for funding innovative and worthwhile projects in communities across the country. While not the sexiest program, it is probably one of our most important. Without support for grassroots clean water policy and restoration work, we would not wield much influence nor have an impact on the state and national levels. Melding in grassroots efforts with state and national programs is critical to protecting our nation's waters. At CWN, we are proud of our many accomplishments. We are helping build the capacity of grassroots clean water groups across the country. We are fighting polluter efforts to weaken the Clean Water Act and other major federal statutes that impact water. Since the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972, many of our water bodies and waterways are less polluted. Lake Erie, for example, which was declared dead in the 1960s, now supports a multi-million-dollar fishery. The Clean Water Act has been most effective at cleaning up pollution in river systems like the Mississippi from point sources such as sewage treatment plants and industrial facilities. In 1970, these types of contaminants accounted for 85% of the pollutants in our waters, and today account for only 15%. And the rate of wetland loss has declined by 90% since the 1970s. Warding off dirty water legislation and policies enacted on the federal, state, and local levels is another accomplishment, as is supporting proactive and progressive water legislation in executive agency roles. We have also played an active role in the development of numeric nutrient standards in Florida and across the country to curb agricultural pollution and stormwater runoff. There are numerous challenges facing CWN and the entire clean water community. As I mentioned earlier, one of our biggest roadblocks to making sure our waterways are protected and our drinking water is clean is public awareness. We need to impress upon all members of society, from soccer moms to politicians to construction workers, stockbrokers, farmers, and coal miners, that clean water is essential. There is no free ride here. We have to address the water crisis here in the U.S. and globally. We are running out of clean water. We can no longer pretend that there is an endless supply of this vital natural resource, one we all need to survive. Part of those education efforts must include making sure people realize that what they do upstream affects everyone downstream, and that every state in the lower 48 shares a water body with a neighbor. Another obstacle we are facing is the fact that the nature and type of water pollutants have changed, and many rivers, streams, and other water bodies are now facing new and different pollution challenges. Today, for example, Lake Erie faces new threats: invasive species such as zebra mussels and grass carp, along with a toxic cocktail of emerging contaminants. In the past 30 years, there's been nearly a threefold increase in nitrogen pollution entering the Gulf of Mexico from the Mississippi River and its tributaries. Commercial fertilizer used throughout the basin is the largest source of nitrogen, though other sources that contribute include animal waste, sewage treatment plant contaminants, and nitrogen in the atmosphere from fossil fuel combustion. Another major challenge facing us is the sheer volume and complexity of pollutants flowing into our waterways and water bodies. Moreover, because of our aging water infrastructure, we end up wasting precious fresh water every single day. Some of the considerable pollution and infrastructure challenges we face include 46 million Americans drink water containing detectable amounts of pharmaceuticals. 40% of headwater streams in the American West are contaminated with legacy mining waste, according to the EPA. Leaking pipes and water main breaks result in a loss of 1.7 trillion gallons of water every year, which is worth $2.6 billion annually and is enough fresh water to supply 68 million Americans. Industries are introducing hundreds of new chemicals into the marketplace every year, many of which have never been evaluated for toxicity by EPA. EPA has only placed restrictions on a total of 91 chemicals used by industry, and a natural gas drilling boom threatens the drinking water supplies for millions of Americans, including 17 million people in the Delaware River watershed. Unfortunately, growing populations and climate change will only exacerbate these challenges. Funding levels and federal regulations have not kept pace with our evolving water pollution and infrastructure problems. Worse, exemptions in current law allow the natural gas industry, agribusiness, and other industries to pollute our water supplies. Clean water is also under attack by some in Congress. Agencies are being defunded, and several pieces of legislation and numerous policy riders have been introduced to limit the scope and enforcement teeth of the Clean Water Act. Our government is failing to address non-point source pollution and invest adequately in fixing our crumbling water infrastructure. As a nation, our continued wasting, contaminating, and mismanaging of water is not sustainable, though many Americans are concerned about water quality. A recent Gallup poll showed that at least 75% of Americans worry a great deal or a fair amount about pollution in rivers, streams, and lakes. We need resources to develop tools to deal with these new types of threats to water quality and other pollutants that are non-point pollutants, which include stormwater runoff, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and agricultural runoff. 40 years after the Clean Water Act, nearly half of all rivers, lakes, and streams are still not swimmable and fishable, largely because of non-point source pollutants. While the 1972 Clean Water Act was innovative for its time, it is in need of an update in order to better meet the new and complex challenges of the 21st century. In addition to the Clean Water Act, we also need resources to work on strengthening other statutes and regulatory programs that impact our nation's water resources. These include, but they're not limited to, the Farm Bill, Safe Drinking Water Act, Energy and Transportation Bills, and the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. The key resource need is for our grassroots efforts through CWN's State Assistance Fund. It helps the boots on the ground keep up their important clean water programs. Gaps to fill include building the capacity of grassroots groups to put more resources into programs that protect both the waterways in their communities and their drinking water. The efforts of many grassroots groups to protect their local bodies of water as well as their drinking water are not as integrated as they could be. One reason is that there are two different statutes on the federal level that oversee these areas, the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act. Another area that has been identified as a major need is work on non-point source pollution, including stormwater management and agricultural runoff. And perhaps most important is the need to prevent pollution in the first place. Our current permit to pollute system is antiquated and in need of an extreme makeover. We need to look at our environment in a much more multidimensional manner, air, land, and water, and explore approaches that create less pollution in the first place. Right now, we discharge pollutants in the water, and then we worry about cleaning up the mess. We should be focusing on reducing pollution in the first place.